I and Brett and Cindy are just delighted to be here with you. This has been a great afternoon. I thank you for your attention. And what we're going to try to do is give you a candid view from a business leader's perspective about what we're looking for in leadership and the many faces and embodiments that comes in. A little bit about myself. I run an organization here in the Philadelphia area called the C12 Group, which gives me the absolute privilege to work with Christian business owners, presidents, partners, CEOs, to work together to build thriving businesses and to strengthen their skill sets, to hold each other accountable to what they say they're going to do, and to live a more balanced life, all in a way that gives glory to Christ. And I say it is a privilege because if you would have known me for the balance of my career for 31 years in the tech business, I wasn't a very nice guy until Christ got a hold of me. You've heard a lot about that today. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to give you the testimony, but I will say that what you've heard in terms of understanding your calling that Jen went to, understanding who you are and your purpose that Christ has for you, those things are real, and the best way to learn them is to look behind you, to look to see what God has been doing to bring you along in your life. Because when you do, you're going to see patterns that develop, and they'll help you understand who you are. So we look at leadership as defining purpose and direction, and then aligning people to work together to that end in a manner that glorifies God. And that's what Cindy and Brett do. You're going to meet them in just a minute. And what we really want to do is try to give you a view of leadership, as I said, from their perspective, an assessment of the opportunities for you or for anyone in business and industry, an opportunity for you to ask questions of them and us. And we want something back. Okay, you got to pay for this. I know you paid a fee already, but this is business, of course, right? So we want something back from you. So we want to have the opportunity to ask some questions of you as well from a candid point of view. If they're in their offices interviewing somebody, they can't ask questions because legally they're not allowed to. So our deal with Jerry was we were allowed to ask anything we wanted of you. Is that okay? Is that a deal? Okay. I'm going to ask Cindy and Brett to introduce themselves, maybe the nature of your business, where you're located, number of employees that you have, the type of clients that you work with, and your role in the business, please. Cindy?
An accounting firm. We have offices in Bucks and Montgomery County. There's about 38 people that work with us, but probably 22 full-time equivalents because we have a number of folks that work part-time for a variety of reasons that'll come up later on when we talk about this. Our firm, about half of our firm serves businesses and individuals, so typical accounting firm doing taxes, financial statements, helping people get loans from banks, things like that. And with the other half of our firm, we work primarily with public sector clients, so that'd be clients in the nonprofit world and the municipal world. And my role of the firm is working with the public sector clients.
Thanks, Cindy. Hi, I'm Brett Griffith, President of Alpha Systems. We provide data and document management solutions to the healthcare community and the legal community. We're located in Huntington Valley, PA. We have an office in Warwick Township as well. We have about 230 employees, and my role at the company is really kind of set the vision and hopefully lead the company on a day-to-day basis. So.
And you've both been there how long?
Well, our business is a family business, so probably a little over 30 years. Yeah.
Does he look that old? And Cindy?
30 years.
Wow.
I started as a cop in college, though, so I'm not as old as you think.
All right, so getting into this thing of defining leadership, could you describe the general characteristics of what you're looking for in the leaders that you hire?
From Alpha Systems, we have a set of core values that we've defined as a business, and probably the top ones that we look for are really integrity, so being honest, having a passion for doing excellent work, so excellence is a value, and then humility is a core value that we look for, so it's kind of putting other people before yourself. So they're probably the top three core values that we look for in leaders.
in our situation, since we're an accounting firm working with clients, we want to work with folks who really care about the clients they serve. So people that are gonna treat our individual tax clients the same way that they would want their own parents to be treated. People that will work with our business clients the way that they would handle it if it was their own business. Because, if you're self-employed and it's your own business, it just means everything to you. It's really important. So we want our folks to get that. So when we are meeting people, we're looking for somebody who shares that same passion to help organizations move to the next level. Same with the nonprofits, people who really care about the mission of the nonprofit organizations.
So now, I'm gonna throw them a curve, which I often do in the meetings that we're at. And they didn't see this question before until 5 minutes ago. But the question I had when I thought about that this morning, that very question is, what percentage of the people that you interview actually have the qualities that you're looking for? And as a follow-on to that, to what extent do their physical and mental abilities impact that?
Well, for us, I guess what we do is we typically have kind of a screening process, so that if there's an open position, we typically get the resumes and so forth. So any kind of disability is, we don't see it, and we're not privy to anything. So it's really kind of comes down to the qualifications and some of the reference checking that we do ahead of time. And then once the candidates come in, we review them for their job experience, their, try to ask questions around the core values, so that we try to find out, when do they demonstrate integrity or a passion of excellence? When have they exceeded expectations of a client? Or when have they really, performed well within a team or led a team to pursue something, or pursue a goal and achieve it, that kind of thing. So in terms of any kind of disabilities, we don't really know that until the candidate may come in. And that's, I guess, one of the questions maybe at the end we can have for the team is, we don't really see a lot of disabled candidates coming in, and that's kind of, I don't know if you see the same thing, but maybe that's a question at the end we can ask, is kind of, how to, because I think the reason we wanted to be on this panel is because, to really connect with,
Yeah, good.
So.
I would say that we would have a similar response. About half of the folks that are with us now came to us from somebody else. Like, somebody worked with us already, and then when we were looking for somebody, they knew somebody who was also looking for work. The other half, if we advertise, like usually Craigslist, we've had a lot of success in the last several years. The last time we placed an ad was probably 3 years ago. We had maybe 80 resumes. We probably interviewed about 10 folks and then hired one. So I don't know if that's 1 out of 80 for your percentage, or the narrowing down.
Yeah.
But like Brett said, we would not know until somebody came in if they had a disability or not. About 5 years ago, a woman came in for an interview and she was hearing impaired. If you speak loudly, and I don't normally speak loudly, I have a soft voice, so I really have to speak loudly when I talk to her. And she reads lips, so between a combination of those two things, go into a little more now or later?
You can go ahead.
Okay.
That's fine, yeah. This is one you might want to take some notes on. If somebody really wants to make a good impression on you, what would you suggest they do prior to coming in to meet with you?
When we hire somebody, most of the folks that have been with our firm for 3 years or more stay, hopefully forever. And I know that in this generation, this is not a fault to your younger generation, but I know that it's predicted that you'll change jobs like 8 times and over the course of 30 years. But ideally, we're going to invest time spending time with somebody. So we want somebody who's going to be a really good fit with our company and someone who's going to stay. So we don't want somebody to come to our firm just because they want a job. We want somebody to come to our firm because they want to come to our firm. So somebody who's read our website, someone that has stories from their past, or either courses they've taken in college or experience that they have that something resonates with them. For example, a young man who we hired 3 years ago, because we do a lot of nonprofit work, he was in college, he was on the board of directors of the local Habitat for Humanity out in the Gettysburg area where he went to college. So he was like, I'm so excited to see you guys have a concentration in nonprofits because that's one of my passions. So like something like that, it wasn't like he was trying to make himself fit with us. He already was that person. So I would say when you're looking for a job, I mean, granted, you certainly want to send a lot of resumes out to anywhere because you never know where you'll like until you get to know it. But if you look, when you go for your interview, look at their website and find things about their website that you're really excited about, and tie that to examples in your life, so when you go on the interview, you can draw that in, just as you weave through your resume and highlight things in your resume and say, you know, oh, I saw you do this, and I like that because of this, or this is fascinating, or I see that this is a really analytical position, and I like that because of this. Whatever it is, and if you need to, this is where your mentor or your parents can help you find some things, because sometimes you look at something like, I really need a job, this doesn't look that great, but it's an interview. Anything that you can find that you can match to something you're excited about, because people want to work with people that you want to work with them, so.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We look for the same thing. So when we interview our people, we generally like to see them do research on the web. Generally, you can get a lot of good information, such as the press releases. You know, if there's any new products or any new contracts that you've won, or anything that's kind of, you know, in your press releases. So that's really good research. And then when the candidate comes in, they can speak to you about the press release, and so that's pretty exciting. Or if there's any core values or mission statements that they may be able to find out about your company, and then they can ask you a little bit about that, just so that you have that common ground and that kind of thing. Because I think Cindy and I see the same thing. A lot of people just want to come and get hired, but they're not that interested in learning about you as a company to see if there's even a fit or anything interesting to kind of talk about. So I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I would add to that, in addition to the research on the web, do you know anybody at that organization? Online, you'll find all kinds of details about the mission, vision, values, but more importantly, if there's a message from the president, or there's news articles about them, you already know, I'm sure, how to Google somebody's name and everything and find out what they're really into, other interests they have, maybe nonprofits they're involved in. That those types of things will really help to let that person know that there's a keen interest there, and you've done your research. And frankly, what happens in the interview is an expectation for what they can expect from you on the job as well. Okay, so now we're going to drill down a little bit
Can I add
deeper.
one thing to that?
Sure, sure.
The other thing, there's, on our website, you would not be able to tell that I, Cindy, am a Christian on our website, but there's books in my office that you would be, and I can't go out and look for only Christian people, but it is something that attracts me to a candidate, because then right away I make some sort of assumption about your values and where you're coming from. So, like, if somebody sees a book on my bookshelf and asks me about it, or if I know that you went to a Christian college, like I know both of you, you're at LBC now too, right? So both of you went to LBC, so that'll, like, you know, the young man we hired went to Messiah, so right away that's standing out. So even if you didn't go to a Christian college, but you are a believer, I think it's important to say, you know, if you notice something or the employer says something, because I'll usually say something in the course of the interview that, just to kind of, I can't ask, but it's a way to find out. Christian employers want to hire Christian folks, because there is that value system is usually there right
Sure.
away.
Sure.
So if you can bring that up in an interview, just definitely take that opportunity.
Good. So from your perspective, what opportunities exist for our attendees, for people with disabilities in the business community today?
I don't know what you find with everything being virtual now. Do you, and I guess we would ask you later, but do you find that's helpful? Because in theory, like, a woman worked with us for 5 years. She moved to Boston. I haven't seen her in the last 3 years, and none of our clients have seen her. And we talk once in a while on the phone, but everything else is through AIM, or we might Skype. So it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're probably the same, because you're
Right.
programming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it depends on the job description. If it's something that can be done virtual, you know, those are the type of opportunities that are kind of exploding across the country. It seems like more people are you know, it's kind of a virtual work environment. So I think it's really getting skilled at whatever your talents are, whatever your God-given talents are, and then honing those and be able to, you know, present that to the potential employer is going to be key.
Do either of your companies employ anyone with disabilities today?
I'm trying to think. I think we may have 1 or 2 disabled employees, yeah.
Okay.
And I mentioned the woman that we work with, she reviews our tax returns, and
Mhm.
she's hearing impaired. And we'll do things through AIM. We're in a house, and we have 3 floors. So if she needs to talk to somebody and AIM is not sufficient, she's like, come downstairs. Then she's the tax reviewer, everybody listens to her, so.
Mhm.
So Here's the question I didn't know how to ask. What can the business tolerate? What disability could a person have and still be considered in your business? What could the business tolerate? What would be okay? Maybe a better question to ask, what wouldn't be okay?
That's a good question. Again, there's several job descriptions, so some of them probably have certain requirements, physical requirements and so forth. Because we do a lot of document scanning, it's a lot of box movement and a lot of heavy lifting and
Sure.
and that kind of thing. But so it depends. So in other words, things like computer programming, data entry, quality control, as long as you have the ability to review on the screen and be able to move, navigate through a software program, then that's probably some of the, in terms of requirements, what we would look at. So, I don't know if
And we're the
that's
same
any-
situation, certain positions, you would need to travel to clients and be able to get around from client to client.
Mhm.
We have a number of small clients, so they might not be accessible. And then in other situations, it really wouldn't matter. Like, for example, the woman up in Boston, so it just depends on the position and what we need from that person.
Yeah, it's interesting because Kelsey's interning with Johnny and Friends, and she did the interview of me preparing for this session. I mean, she was phenomenal on the phone, and I'm just thinking of customer
Mhm.
service representatives
Right.
and all that type
Mhm.
of thing,
Mhm.
There's great opportunity there because
Definitely.
you're not gonna see the physical handicap, nor is it gonna impair.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, and there'd be no travel required or no, like to your point, you have clients that may not have accessible buildings and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot here again, but what experience have you or your people had with hiring and or interviewing people with disabilities? And if you've had that, what has worked well and what frankly hasn't worked well?
Well, I guess that's what I mentioned a few minutes ago. I guess I'm kind of shocked by not really having a lot of applicants. I don't know if you see the same
Yeah.
thing. So I don't, so for us, we don't really get a lot of applicants.
Hmm.
And we're not sure really why, but just haven't seen too many applicants of.
Because as you said, it wouldn't really deter in
No-
certain jobs.
No,
Yeah.
no, and Cindy and I are both in the same, but
Okay.
what we do is we probably have a screening process or a referral process, so we don't screen anyone based on a disability or any kind of a religious background, any of that kind of thing. So we really don't know until they would come into our facility or our building to
Mhm.
see, but we haven't really seen too many folks with disabilities apply.
Hmm. We'll get a perspective on that maybe when
Mhm.
we have a dialogue, right?
Mhm.
And when you asked about interviewing, I know when Mary Ann, the woman who's hearing impaired, when she came in, she normally would have met with two folks, and after she met with the second person, she said, I want to meet with somebody else from your firm, because I really wanted a couple people to interview me to make sure that when I speak, that most people can understand me, and I want them to meet me just to make sure that this doesn't, become an impediment to anybody dealing with it. I thought that was kind of smart of her to be proactive in that way, to take it
Mhm.
a little step. And granted, it could have worked against her, but it was just very proactive. And right away, it also served to kind of diffuse everything because she put it on the table. She's like,
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
the deal. If you can't understand me, I want to know now. Or if you
Mm.
don't think you'll be able to communicate with me, let me know.
I'm not sure how much all of you know about what you're allowed to ask and what you're not allowed to ask legally as an employer, because then there's all kinds of discrimination things that could be filed against you because you're not hiring me because I'm disabled and that type of thing. So here's your chance, all right?
Mhm.
What do you wish in an interview you could ask somebody that has a disability?
You gave that as one of the questions, and the only thing I could think of was, as a woman, I know that I should reach out first to shake a hand because it's like polite, because men should not reach out their hand first to shake a woman's hand. So I tend to
Really?
reach, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Oh, I guess you wouldn't need to.
Did you guys know that?
That's like, I guess it doesn't matter. Maybe that's old fashioned, but anyhow. But if I meet somebody who's in a wheelchair, I'm not sure the extent of their disability. So how will I know if I should shake your hand? If I can clearly see that you can't shake my hand, do you want me to reach over and squeeze your hand? Like, what would you prefer?
That's good. That's good. Maybe we can get some feedback on that. Brett? Anything?
I think it's probably just, as Cindy mentioned, just having an honest assessment whether the applicant can really do the job, which I think for our our HR people might be kind of a delicate balance between what they can ask and what they can't, because they wouldn't want to violate any kind of
Sure.
discriminatory laws for hiring. But on the flip side, you really need to kind of find out quickly if they're a right fit. So it's probably
Yeah.
just that kind of detailed level of
Mm.
questioning to see if there's really a good fit or not with the applicant.
If you look at an opportunity, I mentioned Kelsey's in an internship now, what volunteer or internship experiences would be helpful if someone was interested in working at your company or in your field? And kind of as a follow-on, do you or would you offer an internship to someone with a disability?
I think for us, and maybe this follows suit with you, Cindy, I guess if you look at your market that you're serving, say for us, it's healthcare. So if you were volunteering or doing an internship for a client, or maybe even someone in the healthcare space that uses our type of product or service and get familiar with it, that would really help land either an internship or a job, just because now you have real world experience
Yeah.
on the client side. And a lot of times in healthcare, you can volunteer, and so that's just that's just for Alpha. That would be a good step.
Okay.
That-
Yeah, and with the size of our firm, we usually prefer that folks have had some experience before coming to us, just so they have that basic frame of reference. In the last several years, we've hired 2 interns from Del Val every tax season, and usually those that we've hired have had some kind of accounting experience, either doing some bookkeeping over the summer, or Del Val has a voluntary, it's VITA, Voluntary Income Tax Assistance Program, where their students will volunteer to prepare income tax for people that come in from the community. So something like that. So that's a nice volunteer. If you're interested in math, you can look into that. Some of the students will have worked for their college bookkeeping. So if you're doing work study through your college, just having that work experience through your college is really helpful.
And before I ask a few questions from the attendees' perspective and then give them an opportunity to ask, I want to ask you one more question, kind of taking us back to the beginning, but if you think about the top performers in your organization today, the most committed leaders, what is it that sets them apart? And how did they get that way?
They're passionate about our clients. It kind of circles back to what I said in the beginning,
Yeah.
And if we've properly identified that at the beginning, which we haven't always, I'm not real good at judging people. So sometimes it finds out that I didn't read that right in the beginning, and it's probably about 4 of us that will do interviews from the start. But as that emerges, and sometimes people start and they really don't know if they are, but it just infiltrates everything, because when somebody cares about the person that they're serving, and that's going to apply not just in accounting, but whatever business you go into, if you're communications and you care about the person you're interviewing, it just benefits yourself, everybody that's involved.
I think you used a good word, care. If you care about your employees and you care about your customers. If you really have that genuine care and concern for them, then that's a powerful driver for what they can do. And then I think it's care and concern for your people and your customers. And secondly, it's taking action, someone that's going to not just sit back and let other people, just let things happen, but they'll jump in and actually, make things happen and set an example and have passion and energy to get things done and actually embrace, projects with passion and energy, and that's a big part of it.
And how often are those traits there from the get-go versus you see somebody rise as they go through the organization in their career with you?
My experience is, I think it seems like it's almost, it's my job to cultivate that, but I think a lot of times you see the beginnings of it when you hire them.
Well.
Yeah, and then you try to get them to
Right.
bring that out, but it's sometimes hard to get people in the converse where the people just lay back, they don't care about employees,
Yeah.
it's hard to get them to really care, and generally speaking,
Yeah.
it's hard to get people to change that much.
And you guys kind of have an edge, because if you're walking with the Lord and staying in the Word and praying, you're going to have a natural care about people that's just going to exude from you. And you really, let God work in your life, because that's going to come across to your employers.
Good. So now I've got some questions from this perspective. If I'm part of the audience, right? What advantages or disadvantages do you see for me with my disability in your company?
Advantages, well, I think, as Cindy mentioned, if you're following the Lord, I think you just have that natural care and concern for people. And I think, in the Bible it talks about doing things with excellence. And so you have a pursuit of excellence and you care about people. So you already are ahead of the game. So I think an advantage would be is if you really live your life that way and you pursue that. And, you watch the clip of Johnny and just you see the passion that she just, despite of what she's been through, she continues to persevere and how she's changing the world. I mean, you can do anything. So I think you have an advantage on that side that, a person that may not have a disability but doesn't have those same values could be at a bigger disadvantage, but much bigger. So I see that as a big advantage. The disadvantage with our business might be, as I mentioned, some of our projects or jobs that have, more if it's a physical disability, more physical type of involvement with lifting and moving, boxes and information, that kind of thing. So some of the job descriptions would probably not be a good fit. So that's probably a disadvantage.
Great.
It's probably the same situation,
Ditto.
right? It's gonna depend on what we need somebody to do.
Okay, and here's a little bit of a touchy one. Okay, I'm gonna come back here and say, I'm sitting here in one of these chairs or wheelchairs. How are my coworkers gonna treat me? How are they gonna look at me in the organization? How do you want them to look at me, and how do you want them to treat me, and how will they treat me?
Unfortunately, all these things pop in your mind, and the first thing that came to my mind in our office is, if you bring food, it won't matter. And that's just, we're all about the food. One lady in our interview, she's like, I like to bake blueberry muffins, I have a blueberry bush in the backyard, and it's like, anything she said after that, like the blueberry muffins just kept.
Bring the blueberry muffins.
I know that wasn't the answer you were looking for. I don't think, as long as you can do the work, it's not gonna matter.
Mhm. Yeah, and for us, I think we have a ton of great people that have a lot of compassion. We have people that have become disabled that have worked for us that have been really helped and embraced. And that's probably the thing that I'm most proud of, is when I see our people care for other people in the business. So for me, I'd love to believe that everyone would be treated, great and fantastic, and not sure that would happen every single time, but I've seen that demonstrated in our business and have been proud of our people for doing that. So
It's like anything, like we have some people in the office that are a little more emotional than others, we have some people that have more of a temper than others. I mean, everybody has to deal with everybody's little things.
Mhm.
It's your turn. It's your turn. Questions? Jen?
So I don't think a lot of people know what the illegal questions are.
Mhm.
And maybe perhaps if you could talk about that. I know I had an experience when I was interviewing for medical school where I was actually asked an illegal question. And at the time, for me, my perspective is I don't mind answering it, because if you're gonna discriminate me, I know that this is not the place for me to be anyway. But perhaps also from the panel, if they could explain what would be a proper response if you got an illegal question.
That's great. So what would be some of those questions that would have you stepping over the line? And how would you suggest, if an applicant is asked that they respond to it?
Well, I mean, I know the general categories of your religious faith, sexual orientation, certain aspects of a disability, and I don't know exactly where that line is. I probably should, but I don't know where it is. And I think what happens generally, at least in our company, is we might be more conservative on pressing any kind of questions related to disability, because we don't want to offend anyone or whatever. So I think as it relates to disability, I wish I knew a lot more about the line, but I really don't.
Jen, can you share with us, if you don't mind, what you were asked?
Honestly, I don't remember what it was. I just remember somebody told me that was an illegal question, but it has something to do with how do you anticipate your wheelchair affecting whether you'll be able to go around and see patients or something like that. It was it was very specific to the case,
Okay.
but and it was, in my mind, I thought it was a totally relevant question. It's like, well, how do you expect your disability to really affect how you interact with your job responsibilities? I thought it was totally fair. But then somebody told me afterwards, who was HR, said, yeah, that was not an appropriate question. And that kind of actually gets to the second question I had, which is, would you prefer, so the panelists, would you prefer that in a job interview that a person of disability be more forthcoming about their disability, so that that you avoid the legal question issue?
Mhm.
Or would you, because I mean, a lot of us, if we would go in, it's obvious that we suffer from some disability.
Mhm.
So if we do suffer from that, would you prefer that we bring it up and be much more forthright and say, hey, this is my issues and this is what I can and cannot do, and be kind of delineate it for you? Or would you, so, I mean, it's a little bit of that kind of issue as well. Or is it okay if we're kind of, would it hurt us not to talk about it?
No, I think if you could be upfront and say, look, I did the research on your company, here are my capabilities, here are my strengths, here are some of my, in your presentation, you had your limitations, so if you kind of put that on the table, but I would really love to be a part of this company, and I think I can contribute to the value here and that kind of thing, I think it would be great from an employer's perspective. Do you feel the same way? I mean, you're.
Yeah, because I don't know how I would ask that question, because I would be looking at somebody and I would be thinking, oh, well, we will only be able to send you to certain, if it was for a job where you were going to a lot of clients, if you could drive yourself,
Mm-hmm.
there's some clients, I don't know how you would get in their building. So I would have to, I wouldn't know how to ask that question. And then, so probably what would end up happening, if you didn't bring it up, we would just quietly not pick you, because we would think, well, we're gonna have to plan our schedule and you won't be able to go to these clients. So it would be something we want you to bring up and,
Mhm.
or ask us, how many of the
Mhm.
clients that I visit will have accessibility and things.
Right.
That's the thing that I think
I
would be
think it's
hard.
almost always better if you're gonna call it out up front, right?
Mhm.
Here's what we have, this is what we're dealing with, and this is how I feel about it, this is how I would,
Mhm.
adapt or move around with it.
Mhm.
Other questions? Please.
And Dave, just to add to that, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but the other thing is just the facility, your building facility, how would it work? Is there adequate parking, or, now every building is pretty much, to your point, some of her clients may be in, office buildings that were built years ago and don't have a lot of accessibility, but I think it's just.
Depends a lot on the nature of the job.
Depends on the nature of the job, but just
Yeah.
kind of knowing, being able to survey that up front would be helpful.
Good. Charles?
Yeah, I mean, let's say that, an interviewee, comes into your office, and, he has a disability, but it's not an obvious disability. It could be Asperger's, it could be, some other neural disorder. Do you want him to bring that up, or would that seem to you like he's hedging his bets?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pulling the disability card.
Yeah, you played it as a play card, yeah, I
Mhm.
got you. What do you think?
I'm really glad you asked that. One of our interns does indeed have Asperger's. And if we didn't know that ahead of time in the interview or that getting to know him process, we would have known something was off, but we wouldn't have known what. And we would have thought, oh, he's going to have trouble communicating with clients. But by knowing that, it was able to kind of temper the interpersonal experience we were having with him. And we were able to say, okay, well, but then these other things are going to compensate for that. And just the fact that he was comfortable talking about it and the way he brought it up just made it easier. But I guess maybe, and you guys can chime in on this, maybe that's really a case-by-case basis where you might want to say to your family or your friends or your mentors or your professors, should I say something or should I not say something? Because I think it's going to depend on the level of that kind of the thing that you don't notice right away.
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as you're putting it out there as, I want you to be aware of this, and this is how I intend to deal with it. I don't think there's a lot, because you want people to be aware of this kind of stuff anyway, right? So, that's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question is, okay, so if you have a disability that's not noticeable,
Yeah.
and you tell your employer, and that employer doesn't really care or doesn't really say, okay, that's fine, or like,
Doesn't respond at all.
Doesn't respond at all, like
Okay.
this No, I guess my boss said I work it out. I used to work it out with people quite a bit now. And when I got hired, I told the hiring manager that I have bipolar ADHD and neurologically impaired, and she just said, I don't care. So as long as you can do the job, that I asked you. So I was a host, and so she needed her personal project to just torture me and the whole time and try to get me to go past my just I don't know, like
Keep pushing your buttons, seeing. How
like,
hard, wow.
yeah. So
That's unfortunate.
what would you suggest I do in that kind of situation?
Well, what I would do, I guess, I think always kind of talking to your manager is a good thing. So if you sat down with her and say, hey, I'm just trying to do the best I can, and so maybe you could share with me on, areas you see me, that I need improvement. Because sometimes we as humans, I'm the same way. I mean, if someone says something you need to improve on, all of a sudden we get pretty defensive. So I think the first step is always to talk to your manager and say, hey, I'm just trying to do the best I can. I want to know specifically where I can improve, and I want you as my manager to work with me to help me improve. So now, if you give that a period of time, say 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and now you either have an opportunity to work with the manager, and she has an opportunity to put in writing how you need to be improved. Now you both win at the end of 6 or 8 weeks. She might get off your back, and you might have improved as an employee, and then everybody wins. So that would be my suggestion on, kind of going forward with something like that. Now, if you're doing and you're trying and you're tracking objectively your improvement, and she's not good enough, and she's still pushing your buttons and trying to push you out of the organization, at that point, maybe, I don't know if there's another manager you could talk to and just say, hey, I'm just trying to work with, Beth here, my manager, and I just want to share with you that I'm doing the best I can. Here's what we have worked out, but I don't know. I just feel like I'm still having. So I think at that point you could either go to HR or somebody like that. Just say, hey, I'm trying as an employee to do the best I can. Here's what I'm doing. That would be my recommendation.
I like that. I see Jerry creeping up here, so we're gonna have to curtail things to get you out of here, respect your time. But I would like to get input just before we leave on that idea. Why are they seeing so few applicants that are disabled? Anybody have any feel for that? Please.
Maybe, a person with a disability feels that he or she shouldn't want to bring that gift up right off the bat. As a person who's applied to jobs and has not gotten some, although I have had some jobs in the past, I do have that fear that I won't get the job because of my disability.
So why try?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was part of the reason for the conference itself, right?
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. And one more thing, comments, feedback for Cindy, should she or shouldn't she shake your hand?
Personally, I really don't care who sticks his hand out first. I believe that the employer should stick out her hand.
Mhm.
But the man or woman in an equal setting, it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
It's-
Mhm.
Yep. One follow-up?
Yeah, I think if you're, going for a job interview, it doesn't matter if it's a girl or a woman, as long as, you look at them in the eyes and just shake their hand.
I like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think it's always best to be able to be friendly and try to extend yourself.
If I'm looking at somebody and it appears to me that they might not be able to shake my hand,
Right.
should I still reach out and squeeze their hand or not? Like, how would I make that call?
Yeah.
Nick would like us to
Yeah.
shake his hand,
Yes.
right?
Okay, got it, okay.
That's
Good.
great
exactly what I was
feedback,
looking for.
Thank you.
It's kind of hard to tell with people, as,
Right.
different people are different, but if, in that event, you ask.
Mhm.
You ask if, may I shake your hand, or may I
Yeah.
squeeze your hand?
That's
One of-
great. perfect answer.
Let me just tell you what not to do.
Good, please do. Thank you all, by the way, for your.
That's what I need to know too.